Hello and welcome to Cyber Leaders Live. My name's Simon Linstead. I'm the founder and the host for this evening of InfoSec Live. Today we have a very, very special event. We have a whole Cyber Human Initiative special. We only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to waste no further time and hope my tech support is on standby to seamlessly bring in our first guest, the founder of the whole Cyber Human Initiative, Mr. Paul Cummings. Seamless. Look at that. Hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going, Simon?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Not bad.
So,
Not
firstly,
bad at all.
please tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
I'm a 20-year Navy vet. Went through the process of my transition from military to civilian cybersecurity workforce. Started back October last year. Ran into some roadblocks. Met with some awesome people, some awesome mentors, awesome coaches like Christoph Foulon, James Azar, JJ Davey. The list is just phenomenal. Got to the point where I started my own initiative. Back then, it was called Veterans Breaking into IT and Cybersecurity, where I hosted monthly events, brought on 10 to 12 industry professionals to really talk to the getting into the IT and cyberspace post-military. Then it grew into bringing on civilian, non-military, so on and so forth, to the point where I decided let's launch a nonprofit. Let's try to make it go bigger than what it is, and that's what we did with Whole Cyber Human Initiative. Nonprofit set up as a supporting organization. So any partners that we link up with or we align with, they're all on the same concept of providing free to inexpensive resources to really upskill and kind of deter folks from really going towards the cybersecurity boot camps too early. Too often folks go out and pay $2,500 to $3,000 for a boot camp for 4 or 5 days, and they don't learn anything. They get that nice piece of
Paul,
paper.
I didn't do a boot camp, but for me, I didn't have I didn't have a social media network to start with, which was one big drawback. But I didn't really have any direction at all, and for me, I wasted money on setting OSCP too early. But it's the same thing, isn't it? It's about knowing what's right at the right time, and that's why when you and I first spoke, and we realised that we both had the same vision, that we started working together. And another person who's got the same vision, and you talked about people who'd influenced you and inspired you when you came into the industry. I've only been in the industry for 8 months, and one of the people who inspired me was Chris Foulon. So that seamlessly brings me to ask him to come and join us, I believe, because Chris is sitting backstage. So Sonny, if you could bring Chris up. Hey Chris, how are you? I think you might be muted.
Hey everyone, how are you doing?
Hey.
Happy to be here.
Good to have you, Chris. So for those that don't know you, please give a big hello and tell everyone a bit about yourself.
I'm one of the hosts on Breaking into Cybersecurity. I have a true passion for helping with the career development of individuals looking to transition into cybersecurity. And because of that, I've joined up with individuals like yourself, with Paul, with others, to kind of help promote awareness of ways to get into cybersecurity. I myself struggled when I tried to do the transition from typical IT to something that was more security focused, and had individuals help me along the way. So this is my attempt of paying it forward. And because of that, we're doing all sorts of great stuff like the whole Cyber Human Initiative, your InfoSec Live community, Breaking into Cybersecurity podcast, along with CyberHub with James Azar, and as well as I created a book, How to Develop Your Cybersecurity Career Path. just kind of to put resources out there and provide more guidance for individuals coming into this new and growing career path, because 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't as many formalized roles. And today we're still kind of growing in that area. So kind of helping individuals create that transition into the field.
It was your book, actually, Chris, that first gave me the insight that there wasn't just 2 jobs in cybersecurity. There was actually more than 50. And again, it's about having the ability to learn from people who've experienced it already. And it opened my eyes to all, there we go, look at that. It opened my eyes to all the different possibilities out there. And from my background, which was financial services for 20 years, made me realize that there's a lot of crossover between risk governance and controls in both industries. Not that I've ended up following that, but that then became a kind of driver for me to share the fact that I think there's a lot of opportunities people are missing from other industries, whether they be veterans or from other careers completely. There's a massive range of skill sets that can be brought in and adapt quite quickly. And Paul, I know you're a great believer in that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking with folks like James Azar, Jerry Auger, Josh Mason, Chris, Renee Small, Naomi Buckwalter. There's so many hard and soft skills that get imprinted on a service member. And it's not even just a service member. When you talk about a career pivoter that has done hospitality for 14 years, they have a level of maturity in management and leadership that, why are they only destined to do entry level starting off?
Absolutely.
Right? Especially when, if I'm telling a SOC manager, if I'm a CISO telling a SOC manager to go do something, is the SOC manager really the one doing it? Or does the SOC manager have to have that foundational knowledge of what his team or her team can do? So really, really helping develop, what we call a whole human cyber or whole cyber human. Encompasses, for one, we created a worksheet, and based on the worksheet, it has a lot of the soul searching mechanism built into it, and it's utilizing free resources like the NICE framework. There's 52 roles in IT and cybersecurity. Granted, only 47 of those are functional, but even supportive is still in the realm. Still in the domain.
There's been a big, or there appears to be a big gap in the ability to engage people on the C-suite sometimes and take the very complicated message or simplify that very complicated message. I think rather than me starting rambling on about that, I know we've got another board member of the whole Cyber Human Initiative sitting backstage in Alex. So Sonny, if you could bring Alex on, please. Alex, great to see you.
Morning.
Completely out of curveball thrown at you there that you're now being dragged onto the stage. So thanks ever so much for coming on. Would you take a moment just to introduce yourself and tell people a bit about you, please?
Okay. My name is Alex Rhodes. So I retired from the U.S. Army. I did digital forensics for Army CID. I've worked with Lockheed, Northrop, Peraton, a few other government contractors since I've retired, doing cybersecurity in the classified realm. And I'm now working at Stevenson Technologies doing cyber research.
Wow. And how did you become a part of the whole Cyber Human Initiative?
So I met Paul online and helped him get his interview so that he could get a job. And we just kind of hung out online ever since, like it or not.
You can't get away from him. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I know.
So Paul, there are more members of the board. Do you want to take a moment to tell our audience a bit about who you've brought together and why you've brought certain people together as well? Because you've got excluding me, you've got an all-star cast of some fairly experienced people in the industry.
Well, obviously I have my board of directors. So that's going to be Leah McLean, Alex Rhodes, Chris Foulon, my wife, Gina Cummings. Then, like you said, I have an all-star advisory board that, oddly enough, all have impacted me and those that I mentor, people like Jerry Auger, Simply Cyber, Neil Bridges from INE, Josh Mason, Amanda Sykewitz from Cyberbytes, Ollie Stiles, Mandiant, senior consultant. But I mean, the list is there. It's huge, and we're all on the same mindset as, let's get the proper training to folks, and really have it tailored to what a person is looking for. Are there people that are destined for entry level? Yes. But does that mean everybody has to start entry level? No. So kind of what I did originally was, I think the initial push, there was roughly 17 folks I got together and asked, hey, I would like to know if you would like to be an advisor for something I'm putting together. A few bowed out, obviously, for some reasons, like do not compete and stuff like that, but they're still there as silent advisors, still there to be sounding boards when I come up with something. We also have people like Stefan Simmelroth, huge player when it comes to entrepreneurship and really building your own path. So it's hard to explain, the gravity of the advisors that came together.
I think, Paul, it goes to show how many people are out there who truly want to give back. And I think this industry is quite unique for that. There seem to be a lot of people who are prepared to step up and actually give up their own time. And I notice in the chat, if anyone's got a question, please do drop it in and we'll get to some in a moment. I noticed there are a few of you transitioning in there, and I want to just jump back to you, Alex, and ask you a bit about how that initial transition went for you, and if there's any advice you would give to people who are watching.
Yeah, so I got hit with a medical retirement. Body kind of gave out, so I had no choice in it. I actually lucked out. One of the first interviews I had about 2 to 3 months before I retired ended up getting me a job, and they were able to hold it while all that happened. Even though I had a job, though, I kept looking at positions. I had, the opportunity to go anywhere in the U.S. So ended up taking a job in Colorado, but we were had a few offers in Florida, 1 or 2 in Texas, New York. Had one that I could have taken the job around St. Louis, but having the ability to take multiple offers, I was able to kind of weigh the pros and cons of everything and figure out where a good place to go was for me and my family. And so we took the job in the Colorado area. It was a short process for me. I was notified at the beginning of February that they were starting the med board, and we were in Colorado by October. So wow. I did not have a lot of time. I know that there's been some discussions we've had. There's information I was given, such as take the U.S. Department of Labor and use that for when you're starting job negotiations and salary negotiations, to look at types of jobs you might do and what the typical pay rate is, which that's not great information. Everything I found on there that kind of related to cybersecurity put the salary range at about 40 to 60 for all over the U.S., which you're going to struggle to make it in many, many markets. And I had CISSP at the time. CISSP is worth a lot more than 40 to 60 in pretty much any market I've found in the U.S. So,
I think there's a lot of headline rates to attract people into cybersecurity at the moment regarding salaries as well. And I was a victim of that last year when I wanted to break in and be a penetration tester. And I do think the glamorization of it, whilst in a way it's great, it's interested a lot of people who otherwise perhaps wouldn't have come into the industry. The gamification part as well, which I also think is good after being obsessed with Hack the Box for 6 months last year personally. My concern is then people relating or applying the skills they've learned through the gamified process to actual jobs. And that seems to be
Yeah,
a popular theme. Chris, do you want to comment on that?
yeah. I mean, the problem with the big headlines and everything, they almost give the impression that there's two main roles within cybersecurity, that there's a SOC analyst and there's a penetration tester. And unfortunately, and that's not true, and that almost inhibits the diversity that we need, because we there's so many other roles that we need individuals from finance, we need individuals from marketing, we need individuals from teaching within the cybersecurity industry, and there's different roles that really align to their transferable skill sets that we can highlight. And that's why, for example, I've just stopped sharing like generic security advice, because someone would ask me, oh, well, what's a good certification, or what should I study? And I'll never give an answer. I'll first say, well, what do you want to do? Have you started to look into some of the roles, and then try to understand maybe what piqued their interest, where they're interested in, and then maybe make some recommendations, like, you did this in the past, this other role really aligns to some of those transferable skills that you can use, so you're not starting over from scratch. Have you considered that? And most of the times they haven't. So it gives them at least a starting point to go in and to investigate.
I agree, and I'm going to be controversial now and be hated by all of our job-seeking audience, in that I think expectations need to be managed as well when it comes to what roles you expect when you come in, and that can be at both ends of the spectrum. So for the younger people trying to break in, expecting $60,000 a year a job as your first job, I mean, I don't care what industry it is, I think you're going to struggle a little bit with that. But equally, for people transitioning out of the military, or as you were saying, Chris, maybe financial services, if you've got 20 years regulation, oversight, governance and control function in that industry, there are different exams you could focus on to then step into a career in cybersecurity at a fairly senior level, I would argue. And there seems to be a missing
think
piece
that
on that.
aligns with
And
Reginald's
I think
question,
Paul,
too.
you're doing some work on this at the moment, aren't you? Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. The candidate worksheet that we designed, the biggest part of it is the soul searching, right? Every book you look at, between Chris's book, Jerry's book, any big names that you follow, Ken Underhill, it's always that one thing, right? What do you want to do? And what we do is we supplement that with, right now it's gated to the US, but they have cybernights.us. And you're able to go on there and do a true aptitude assessment test. And you get this awesome KSA list of the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you already have. And then what we do is we supplement that with the extra training, the free training, not the paid for, right? Because if you're going for something, let's say, you choose 3 to 5 roles. Of those 3 to 5 roles that you choose, and you start working on these free trainings, and you figure out, okay, maybe that wasn't for me. Now you just got that knowledge to not go pay for a certification that has no return on investment for you.
Well, I spent about $3,000 I didn't have on CompTIA A+ and OSCP, for the simple reason I didn't seek any guidance and thought that was my way into the industry. And I know I'm not alone in that. And that's kind of how this all started for me, and how InfoSec Live started, was to try and share some of the horrendous mistakes I made. One is the degree I've got sitting on the floor that I've stopped doing, because the degree in cybersecurity in the UK, for the part I was interested in, I'd say 6% of that syllabus bears any relevance to what I ever need to know. So that was disappointing. The OSCP, which was a phenomenal experience and scary, it was a waste of money because I wasn't ready for it. I didn't have the underlying network knowledge. I didn't understand. So whilst I got a couple of boxes, I got it through learning a process that I didn't understand the methodology of or how it actually worked. And for me, there's a lot of people I see trying to do the same at the moment, is skip the bit, that background
Yep.
networking knowledge. And I keep seeing that coming up and up again and again with candidates. I don't know if you experience that.
I think it really depends on the role, right? If you're someone that wants to do teaching, there is the training, the basics, there is the security awareness training, there is all sorts of other training and communication roles which you can use because you have that experience in communication. You don't necessarily need to learn a ton about networking in those roles. And then for example, individuals from finance, if you're helping the department to determine the ROI for a specific security investment or how to finance their next project, you're doing that with a security focused lens, and you're using your past finance background, and you're helping that security leader show the value to the organization. You don't know anything about networking, but you're using your finance experience to help that security leader achieve their goal.
I'll tell you, Chris, a good example of that is, actually, I think we've got Leah backstage. I'll bring you on in 1 second, Leah. Thanks for joining us. A good example of that is, sorry, I've gone completely blank. So I'll bring you on, Leah, because whatever I was going to say is just completely gone from my mind. If you could turn your camera on, Leah, at the bottom of the screen, I think we should be able to bring you up here to the main chat. Oh, we're getting technical problems now. Look, Simon forgets his lines. Leah's camera's not working. So let's switch that off for a moment. And I'm going to go back to you, Chris, to ask you to carry on talking about what you were saying so I can try and ravage through my memory and remember what it was I was going to come out with.
Well, I think it goes back to one of the questions someone asked in the audience, and that is how someone with a teaching background or a finance background can transition in. And then back to your question, or you didn't have the networking background. And those are self-imposed limitations that individuals put on themselves as you're looking to transition in. Oh, I don't have that skill. Oh, I don't have that skill. And they almost self-select. And
yeah,
as a career coach, I look to help them bypass that barrier and help them see how their skills are transferable and how they can use the skills that they have in a field, and then allow them to gain the additional education to make them successful in those roles, so that they're not just focused on what they don't have, but they look at what they have and then how can they add to that.
You see, Chris, I wish we'd have met a year before we did, because I've remembered what it was I was going to say. And I spent 10 years helping businesses raise money, raise investment for their projects, for their expansions. And I've also raised money myself through crowdfunding in the past. And whilst it's an amazing opportunity for people to grow their businesses, I've also seen the flip side of that as well. And what I mean by that is the motive of the investors is always an exit strategy at some point, which then becomes not malleable at all. So you're fixed to whatever your plans are there. The other thing is the pressure of reporting to whoever it is investing into your project. I've seen how that can impact people and businesses. And that goes back to that learned experience. I never would have related that to cybersecurity until the last few months, where I see firms raising capital. I sit here in horror, because I've also seen, whilst it is a great thing and it can go really well, it can also be pretty damaging as well, and spoil the whole ethos of what it was you were trying to start in the first place. Paul, do you want to carry on talking about some of the initiatives we've got going at the whole Cyberhuman initiative? Because I'm conscious we've only got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, actually. So we do have some two big things coming out. We linked up with a veteran-owned company called Proper Patriots. They are going to be back selling some apparel for whole Cyberhuman initiative. The proceeds that we receive from that is going to go into a savings account for many scholarships for certifications. On top of that, we also have another veteran-owned organization, Aerial Resupply Coffee, that is going to market a whole cyber human blend coffee. And the proceeds for that will go into a separate savings account targeted for youth. So, in the States, we have places like Code Ninja, Code Up, Code.org. They all have academies that are scholarship based, but some families can't afford the $1,800 or the $2,000 a year for their child to go through these. So, creating that gives me an option or the ability to help supplement some of the costs for some people. And I know that we talked originally, pairing up with InfoSec, trying to create a CTF for grade school level. We have the Cyber Patriot and CISRA all doing amazing things with STEM schools, but us unifying this way gives us the approach to help the non-STEM schools, the private schools, the charter schools that aren't subject to this type of training. And how I envision it is, with a ESDN, the Evolutionary Skills Development Network Discord, the Vicious Vineyards Discord, our whole Cyber Human Initiative volunteers, and InfoSec live moderators gives them the ability to coach a team. So obviously schools that have a program are phenomenal because they're in the same class with the same people. Whereas we give them the option to, hey, I want to log in from home and do it by myself. Let me get added to a team. And now I have a coach that is in the industry or an already professional aspiring to get a job. Teach me the fundamentals. We're also working on a research paper for, I think is either BBC or Huffington Post put out either 2 years, 3 years ago that at age 13, you can have a LinkedIn account. So if you are in high school or middle school and you're already upskilling, you're doing the YouTubes, you're doing these free academies, you're getting this, Code Ninja or these other types of training or doing capture the flags and stuff like that, why not have a LinkedIn profile already on a professional network to start marketing yourself to where as soon as you become legal working age, you're not met with the gatekeepers that we have these days. So that is one thing that we're is volunteer led. One of our volunteers is actually working on that paper. And then we also have cyber awareness training that, is instructor led. Granted, yes, you can go online to Amazon, do free cyber awareness training. But for us, it gives us the ability to say, hey, we want to link up with our whole cyber human candidates and volunteers and NAMI Buckwalters, cybersecurity gatebreakers, and have the ability to give them, a platform to get themselves out there.
I think, Paul, the pandemic showed us lots of things, but it also showed us that people have had enough of doing everything digitally. And it brings me back to that need for engagement. And, automated sales funnels are great, but people still want to see people. And I want to go back to something Chris was saying before we finish, because although there's been so much in the chat, I did see someone comment on there. If you were a finance professional, Chris, or a teacher in a previous life, do you have any recommendations for people with those skills with regards to exam paths to follow? Because we started to touch on it, and I think a couple of people were interested. So if you could expand, that would be brilliant.
That's the problem, right? Just because you come from a certain background doesn't mean you have to follow a certain path. I think you have to explore more as to the whole cyberhuman questionnaire and the CyberKnight options that Paul was mentioning earlier, that you can look at all the potential paths and look where you want to go down. I was just talking to a colleague of mine, and she came from a huge finance background, a huge risk management background. And for her, the advice was, well, brush up on understanding how the different aspects of the cloud work. And then specifically for her, she was working a lot with controls. So it was looking at C-risk and how controls work and how different aspects of the business all interact with controls. So that advice was specifically for her. I do not like to give advice just generally for everyone because there's so many different options, and you have to take your past experience as well as your passion into consideration.
Yeah, I think that drives it home even more, the need for that human contact. And I'm conscious we've run over time. Alex, I've hardly given you a chance to speak. So before we go, do you have any words of wisdom to our viewers? Maybe the first word of wisdom would be you might need to unmute your mic.
Yeah. Sorry. There we go. So when Paul and I were talking a long while back, when he was finishing up his transition out of the Navy, he was focused on entry-level jobs, as that was what was taught to him. You're starting over, you need to start at the ground. And so I know I've talked to a lot of people and tried to get that mindset out of them. You don't have to start over. Take all your past experience and learn how to take what you've learned in the past, relate it to cybersecurity, some concepts, so you understand what you're talking about. And all of a sudden, you're not entry level, you're at least a junior, if not a mid-level employee at that point. You have all this past experience, you can relate it to the security concept, you can explain it to somebody in such a way that they understand it. So now you're not the beginner, but you're mid-level, possibly even senior.
Fantastic. I completely agree. And I think it's a frustration of mine when you see so many people looking for those entry-level roles when you know full well that with a little bit of guidance, it wouldn't be entry-level they'd be looking at. Thank you, Alex. Paul, any words of wisdom before we leave everyone?
Just a standard, as you're seeking to get into the world of cyber, you're not alone. Reach out, find a mentor, find multiple mentors, and start identifying yourself who the gatekeepers are. You have some people out there that'll say they will help you and then completely post something on their LinkedIn that is completely against what they've been trying to help you with. So know that does exist. And then if you have imposter syndrome, screw it. Get over it. Everybody has it. I know myself and Alex on the project we have right now, we're meeting imposter syndrome. But you know what? Imposter syndrome lets you grow.
It does.
It challenges you. It lets you know where your weaknesses are, so you can prosper from.
I'll tell you what it's better than, Paul. It's better than the opposing syndrome, which is called ego syndrome, which is far worse. So thank you, Paul, for those words. Chris, some wise words from you, please, sir, before we go.
Focus on that self-discovery. Look at the NICE framework and take a look at the different job roles, see what interests you before spending a lot of money on a certification or a boot camp or even a master's degree that you may or may not need.
I completely agree. Everyone, it's been absolutely amazing. The message I'd like to get across is that whilst everyone's got their own business interests, there are a lot of people in this industry who put them aside and do actually give back and try and help others. The three gentlemen I have here today are certainly great examples of that. I haven't got time to mention all of the others, but you've seen some on the show already. There'll be plenty of other people who are true give backers coming on the show over the next few weeks. In the meantime, if you need any support, join the whole Cyberhuman initiative. Reach out to Chris Foulon. I'm sure Alex will be accepting connection requests as well. And do come along and join the InfoSec Live community. I'll play us out with a little video that has our community telling you what they think about it. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
It's been so great to be part of this awesome community where you can learn, get potential jobs, and this is the part that the community has helped me the most, being able to get a great contract in security, and thanks for this.
You don't have to be super experienced in order to contribute. They really foster a sense of community, and they encourage everybody to contribute anything that they can, regardless of whether you're just starting out in your career or if you've been in the career for decades. I like the different challenges that they have, the different pathways that you can follow, the fact that you can join communities that are specific to you and your needs. It's a new and growing and thriving group, and I'm really proud that I was able to be a part of it from almost the very beginning.
It's given me a community I could lean on, and the people in there are always willing to help. I've also gotten to break into cybersecurity because of InfoSec Live, and I'm very grateful for that.
Cybersecurity professional or are trying to become one, you need to get onto InfoSec Live.
Whether you are brand new to the field, whether you are pivoting from another IT career, or you're pivoting from a non-IT career, this is the place for you to. Also, even if you are an experienced professional, there will be something here that you can learn.
InfoSec Live has been great for me because it's brought me closer to other like-minded people, and I've been able to pick the brains of some real industry experts that are also part of the community.
To the right place, because listen, let me tell you that InfoSec.live is everything that it claims to be. A vibrant community. They've got all that you need on InfoSec.live. Listen, they tell you InfoSec.live is addictive. Get on board. Come and get addicted.
Get on InfoSec now.